what I would like to start by doing is maybe if you could text to chat us where you're joining us from. Currently, my name is Justin Harford, and I am joining from Eugene, Oregon. We've got some of Monica here too, who's also from calling in from San Antonio, Texas. Let's see. So, okay. And then also everybody, I think what we'll do is before we go any further, I'd like to ask Monica to go over the access slides with us.
Great. Thanks, Justin. And I've just changed the chat box so you can chat with everyone publicly. But we have people from Austin, Texas, New Hampshire, New York, Florida, Rochester, San Diego, all parts of the US, Indiana. So thanks for joining, everybody. I am going to share my screen. And hold on just and I'm going to spotlight you, Audrey, the interpreter. So I wanted to just review some access tips before we begin. So everybody, if you don't mind, please turn off your microphones and video until the host or moderator invites you to turn them on. If you plan to use audio, we definitely recommend a quiet room and/or headphones. To view the captions, you can click the CC button at the bottom of the Zoom page, or also use the stream text link, which is provided in the chat box. If you have a comment to share, feel free to send a chat to myself. Monica Malhotra has the kind of tech support, and also to change to gallery view. You can do that in the top right corner of the slides to see the interpreter and all presenters for optimal view. And you can also use the hide non-video participants feature to make it easier to see the interpreters and speakers at any time. So here is an image of not hiding non-video participants. Sometimes there can be a lot of clutter with black boxes with everybody's names on it. So it's a little bit difficult to find the interpreter or the speakers. So we suggest changing that on the right-hand side is what it can look like with just the interpreters and presenters on screen. And how you do this is you can find any participant whose video is turned off and select the ... button for more in the top corner, in the right corner of their screen, and select hide non-video participants from the drop-down menu. And that concludes my tips for access. Again, my name is Monica Malhotra. You can find me in the participant list. If you have any questions, tech questions, feel free to chat me at any time. And we are recording this session. And Justin, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Great. Thank you, Monica. So as I mentioned, my name is Justin Harford, and I'm a project coordinator with the NCDE. And I think now what I'm going to go ahead and do is go ahead and so basically the idea of this webinar is it's an insider's guide to the world of international exchange for people with disabilities. And we have a group of panelists from pretty well-known exchange providers. This is a sample, though, of just a small sample of what's out there in the whole field. And they're going to talk about access and disability from the point of view of their organizations. And so what I'd like to do is go ahead and invite our presenters to introduce themselves and your work, your organization, and Also, if you happen to have a disability experience. So why don't I have my namesake, Justin, go first.
Hi, Justin. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Justin DeAndrade. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm the senior manager of our study abroad experience and operations team at AFS USA. So AFS USA is a nonprofit organization. Our goal is to empower people to become globally engaged citizens by delivering intercultural experiences that can provide knowledge and skills needed to create a more just and peaceful world. And our organization focuses most specifically on high school exchange. So we host participants from about 80 countries around the world each year. And then we send US participants to about 40 countries around the world. And myself and my team, we work specifically with US students interested in studying abroad.
Thank you, Justin. And Sarah.
All right, thank you. So my name is Sarah. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I work for International Studies Abroad, which is an organization in the study abroad world that sends US students outbound to about 30 countries. I am based in Lexington, Kentucky, and work with schools in this region at the university and college level. So Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, and some of Tennessee. And I studied abroad myself a few years ago. And this topic is really interesting to me because I do have mobility restrictions. I can't walk very far, very fast, or for very long without having to stop. And it did impact my time studying abroad. So this is really important information, I think, for anybody with a disability looking to go abroad.
Justin, I think you're on mute.
Am I in the meeting now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I think I just got knocked off there. Thanks, Brittany Dunn.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany. I use she, her pronouns. I work at World Learning, and although I live in Western Mass, I work from Brattleboro, Vermont, which is one of our home offices, the other being in Washington, D.C. And World Learning is also connected to SIT, the School for International Training, which offers a number of study abroad opportunities
Great.
for university students. I work with our youth program, which is a U.S. Department of State funded series of youth programs for high school students. Our unit also is connected to the experiment in international living for high school students as well. And I do have a number of learning disabilities, and bring that experience with me, and it shapes the way that I work with youth. Excited to be here today.
Thanks, Brittany.
I just kind of want to ask our panelists to summarize. Kind of, you already touched on sort of the organization you work for, but maybe if you could summarize some of the programs that your organization offers, and particularly if there's any anecdotes of disabled folks who've studied or volunteered abroad with you before. So go to Sarah.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So we have what you would think of as, traditional study abroad programs for college or university students, semester long, summer long, as short as 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, we have the whole, like any type of program. We have several stories of students with disabilities who've gone abroad with us, and those range from, learning disabilities to mobility restrictions, or, health restrictions, medication wise, really just about anything. We're seeing an uptick now of students wanting to bring their service or emotional support animals with them abroad. I know we'll talk about that a bit later. But yeah, there's several stories of students who've gone abroad with us for any type of program.
Thanks, Sarah. And how about Justin?
Sure, thanks. So for AFS, we offer a pretty diverse offering of programs. We have what we traditionally call our flagship programs. Those are semester and year high school programs. So a student will study abroad, they'll live with a host family, they'll attend a local high school, and this really gives them sort of this full immersion experience of what life is going to be like living abroad. And then we also have a variety of short-term programs, mostly over the summer. Those can range anywhere from 2 to 8 weeks long, and they tend to have a variety of different topics. So it could be anything from learning about human rights in Argentina, or you could spend the summer experiencing a short high school program in Costa Rica. We do have some experience of sending students abroad with a variety of disabilities, similar to what Sarah said. We've had students that have learning disabilities, things related to health, mental health, medications. Recently, we did have experience where we were able to send a deaf student abroad to Argentina.
Thank you, Justin. That's great. And Brittany?
Hi, yeah, so the youth programs that we run are focused on leadership development. And the programs that I work with are for youth from other countries coming here to the United States. However, in my department, we also have programs for people from the United States going abroad. And the leadership development component is allows for a very rich experience where students learn from each other. So although we have many opportunities for them to learn from community partners and to do volunteering work, we also have facilitated dialogues and workshops that we lead with our youth. So we really, an important aspect of our program is encouraging students to learn from themselves and from their own experience, which is a really unique way of encouraging students to bring their whole selves. And that being said, I also, within our organization, like I said earlier, we do offer the Experiment in International Living, which is a short-term program for high school students in the US. And we also have the SIT Study Abroad program with a real variety of programs for high school students for semester or year programs. And we have had a youth with many different disabilities join our programs, particularly folks with learning disabilities, with mental health issues, and also with autism. I'm thinking particularly of one young person who worked with, and it was something that we'll talk about a little bit more later, is the power of disclosing and how that disclosure can really help us to develop a program that works well for you. So yeah, I look forward to talking more about that.
Thanks, Brittany. And in fact, that is going to kind of start leading us into our next topic. There's a variety of programs and a variety of countries that you can go to. So how do you pick? So I'm going to direct this next question to Sarah first. So what are some things that a person with a disability and from other identity backgrounds might take into account, both when choosing a country and also when choosing a program?
Yeah, the way we like to do it at ISA is to encourage the dream first and then the accommodation second. Speaking from my own background, I really wanted to learn German, and that's what I did in my undergrad. So obviously a German-speaking country would be my preference. And I was thinking I want to pick a place where I can speak German, a place that would be easier for me to get around, with more developed infrastructure, public transit. But I also identify as a lesbian, and I wanted to go to a place that I had never been abroad before, but I knew would be accepting of that identity. So really take into account your own personal inventory of, what's important to you, where do you want to go, what do you want to accomplish. I ended up picking the program I did because it was, Germany at the time when I studied abroad was one of the most accepting of LGBTQ students. They have a lot of public transportation. It offered a homestay, which was important to me to develop the language. It really ticked all of those boxes, and it wasn't just the disability experience. That was a big part of it, but it wasn't the only factor going into my experience. So that's where I'd start. Really, what's important to you? All of us in this room want you to go abroad to a place that you'll be happy with in the end.
Thanks, Sarah. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, I would say I would echo very much some of the things that Sarah said. From our perspective, and what our team does is we sort of serve as advisors for students that are interested in studying abroad. So we're really here to guide students from the exploration stage all the way through the application and admissions process. So what we really want to hear from students that are interested is first, like, what are you interested in? What's your motivation? What do you hope to accomplish by going abroad? And then from there, we sort of then can start to get into conversations about what are your needs when you go on program? What do we need to be aware of to ensure not only your health, your safety, but that you can also have a meaningful experience. Then from there, sort of taking this list of looking at your interests, your goals for studying abroad, also looking at maybe how long you want to go. What we have is our partner network. So we have AFS offices all over the world. And what we can do there is start those conversations with them and, hopefully find a program that would best align both with what you hope to accomplish, what you're interested in and excited about, but also understanding the realities of a particular country and whether or not they can sort of meet the needs of a specific student.
Thanks, Justin. That's the AFS perspective. Brittany, why don't you tell us from World Learning's point of view, things that a person with a disability or from other identity backgrounds would consider when choosing a country or program?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm also going to echo what Sarah said. I really like that dream first, plan later. That will definitely be something that I continue to say. But once you are beginning to plan, as I was talking about earlier with disclosure, if you feel comfortable and are able to disclose, you have the opportunity to work with admissions departments at the organization that you hope to study abroad with. And when you talk with them, they will be able to give you insight into their program partners in different countries and their ability to accommodate your needs and make the experience as safe and joyful and successful as possible. I know that we have different countries when in our experiment in international living, there are some partners that we have that would be a really good fit for people with different disabilities. And we also, actually, I'm going to save that part for another question, but I will add that I actually went on when I was choosing my study abroad experience, I actually chose one that was for people specifically with learning disabilities. And this allowed me the unique experience of getting my needs met in the classroom, and then being able to travel and get to know the country with other peers who learn similarly to me. And that is just one unique example, but I think that Yeah, I think that the power of disclosing and connecting with your admissions counselor is a good first step.
That's great. Thanks, Brittany. Sarah, how might a person do their own research to prepare?
That's a good question and a big one. I started by just Googling, best places to go for public transit or things that I was thinking about at the time. I would really recommend also talking to your support network, whether that be parents or guardians or your friends or a trusted teacher at school or a professor, or if you're at the university level, a disability resource center. Any trusted advisor, contact, friend, person that knows you well and can help you research and really identify, what do you need, what would help you be successful, because you're probably not going to think of every piece that goes into a program. I remember thinking about public transit, which I've mentioned for my mobility, but also I ended up living in a homestay that had 3 floors, and that was a lot of mobility. And I didn't think about, yes, I want to do a homestay. What type of home can I get into? So it's really helpful to talk to, someone you trust. And while we're on the topic of disclosure, I really want to echo what Brittany said about, if you feel comfortable disclosing, talk to the provider that you're working with, whether it's ISA, World Learning, AFS, or any others, because we can help you do that research. I know on the ISA side, I'm one of 4 members of our accessibility team who are solely dedicated to advising students with disabilities. So we're the ones that look into, okay, you use a wheelchair. How big is the wheelchair? Can it get into these classrooms? Is there a ledge to get up into the classroom? All of the details, and we talk you through it. So the more you disclose and the earlier you do so, the more likely we are able to help you with that information.
Thank you, Sarah. That's great. We've kind of talked about like who they might talk to. I want to go back to Brittany though and ask you. You both mentioned a lot about disclosure, but Brittany, and kind of how might you recommend that someone disclose their disability? What are some tips that you can maybe share?
Yeah, well, the first thing is just speaking personally, I think it is a personal decision to decide when to disclose. When someone feels safe enough or I should say, when I feel safe enough to disclose, and when I feel safe enough that the person listening to me will treat that information with respect and confidentiality, that is the only time that I disclose. So it is a very personal decision, and once you have gotten to that point to decide that you do want to disclose, there are some big advantages to disclosing when you are in the process of picking out your study abroad program. The first, as we mentioned earlier, is of course the ability for the program to help make accommodations for you and to give you information about the particular programs so that you can then make an informed decision. So again, that is out of respect for you so that you can make the decision that works best for you. Just so that you know, admissions departments here at World Learning, we only disclose the information about your needs for accommodation when absolutely necessary. Sometimes that we would do that would be working with a partner who would be hosting you, and then making the reasonable accommodations that as much as we can. I do want to mention also that most international study abroad organizations, ourselves included, contract with like international organization that helps to do risk management. So we contract with one called International SOS. And this is an organization that if we give you the contact information to contact, and they are an organization that you can ask questions of to learn more about accommodation, and they can really actually help you and help us as the program implementer to have resources and make sure that you have a really successful experience. So those are some things I wanted to share with you all.
That's great. I think what I'm going to do here is, I mean, we talk about, I think like people with disabilities, when you study abroad, I think the kind of the accessibility resources that we're kind of familiar with are usually the Disability Resource Center on the host campus. And then there's maybe a host of other US-based programs like Department of Vocational Rehabilitation or Medicaid or things like that, which are really just mostly stateside services that probably may not be as applicable abroad. What kinds of services or what kinds of resources, I'm going to direct this first to Justin, what kinds of resources does AFS work with students in tapping into on overseas programs?
Sure. So one of the, as I mentioned, like strength of AFS is that we have AFS offices in each of the countries we send abroad to. And those offices are staffed by locals, people that are, from the country, citizens of the country that we're sending to. So one of the strengths there is that they have that really in-country, in-depth cultural knowledge of the realities of the country and potential resources. So our approach typically is when we're connecting students and helping them pick a destination is that we work really closely with our staff offices abroad. In many cases, they may also connect with local organizations that can provide resources or information to students, whether they're preparing or once they're on program. And then in addition with AFS, we're also primarily a volunteer-based organization. So we have a network of about 50,000 volunteers across the globe that come from, very diverse backgrounds with different experiences. And so that's another key thing that we're able to do. So we've had volunteers here in the US that have helped us in the preparation process for students that have certain needs. And then that's also something that our partners will look into as well. So in one case in which we had a student that was deaf that was going abroad, our partners were able to they had a volunteer that was also deaf that had connections to a local deaf school and organization. And so they were able to really provide a good level of support for that student throughout the entirety of their program.
Justin, that's a great example. And when I studied abroad as a blind student, I actually found that volunteers were helpful for me to get assistance with reading textbooks when I was in South America. So that's a great example too. I'm going to direct the same question to Sarah. What resources are available in terms of disability access abroad?
Honestly, very similar, because we do a lot of the connecting to the host country, and we have staff in all of our countries that are, locals or citizens, and they're able to not only give us a feel of the culture and resources, but also help us when we need an actual connection. Say we have a student who needs an interpreter in the classroom. Can you connect us to someone in Spain who can be that interpreter in class? I mean, we've put out several inquiries of that nature for several different types. And we also work with our on-site staff for say the emotional support animal example I had mentioned, helping us get what are the up-to-date requirements on bringing in an animal. Right now, do they need to quarantine? That's a big question. I mean, if you as a student need to quarantine, how does that work for your animal? Is it required? Is it not? How much does that cost? How long will it last? There's a lot of different factors, and it can change so quickly that we usually work together, both domestic here in the US and on site abroad, to get that most accurate information.
That's great. Yeah, and in terms of also like animal service and emotional support animal type resources, there's the Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service that we often like to refer people to. And it's important to be able to, you know, have access to those resources to avoid unnecessary quarantining. And even in places like when you go to island nations or island states, in the case of like Hawaii, you can get exceptions to some of the quarantine rules. I'm going to direct the same question now to Brittany. Tell us about World Learning's point of view, the disability type resources that you encounter abroad, and maybe any non-identifiable anecdotal stories that you could share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am going to talk a little bit more about on-the-ground facilitators and leaders. So the nature of our programs, particularly our youth programs, depend upon at least 2 leaders, program facilitators who per small group of usually about 10 youth. And these leaders help to support our youth across the program. They facilitate workshops and check in regularly with youth. And they have been the people who support our youth who are who may need accessibility for no matter what the reason. And we offer a pretty thorough training for all of our staff. And this includes training focused on equity, diversity, inclusion, as well as support for students who are experiencing on all kind of levels of the learning path. And that to me includes any challenges that may come up, no matter what the cause. So I would really urge people to connect with your leaders or facilitators if you are on a program with them. And if they do not have the resources for if they do not have the resources for connecting and supporting directly, then the folks at the home office can really do that. They are in constant communication with full-time staff at World Learning who can then support you on your learning journey.
That's great. Thank you. Can everyone hear me? Hello?
Yes. Yep, we
Great.
can hear you.
Good. I just heard the static kind of just went silent for a moment, which made me think I temporarily off. So great, that's perfect. Well, thank you, Brittany, and that's really great. I mean, World Learning does a lot of really excellent programs too, like our partners with working with youth, like minors, basically. And we know parents can be worried about that, but I know you guys do a great job at working with even students in their adolescent years and making sure that they're well supported. Brittany, how can the student, I know sometimes I think young people, I think we worry about how are we going to connect with communities abroad. So like how might students with disabilities get connected and make friends with their peers and with maybe locals while studying or volunteering abroad?
Yes, absolutely. So this was always a issue for me, or my first question, and I think it's you know, a question that most of our youth have before they join the programs is, how am I going to make friends? And kind of, you know, some nervousness perhaps may come from that question. So we do all that we can to create a community where everyone can feel like their voices are heard. And of course, we understand that that isn't always the case due to the society that we live in and the biases that we all hold. However, we, I do want to say that, again, all of our staff have had trainings, and we have trainings around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and making sure that all of our youth in our programs feel a sense of belonging is very important to the way that our programs are led. As such, we focus a lot on building connection amongst all of our participants. We do that, and I would say that as we focus on experiential education as our model for education, we believe that every moment of a program is an opportunity for learning. So even in the cafeteria, when people are eating lunch, we think of that as an opportunity for other people to learn from each other. So my recommendations are to, I think the first is to be honest with where you're at. If you're feeling shy or some fear around connecting, being aware of that is very important. The second is checking in with your facilitator. Our facilitators are the people who you can go to first when having an issue on program. And then my next suggestion is to really use any opportunity to learn from and connect with other people. We have a lot of discussions around intercultural communication and forming relationships across cultures. So that is something that we want to practice in our programs and give people the skills to really build.
That's great. Thank you, Brittany. And in fact, I think people may not realize too that having a disability and studying abroad can sometimes give you a unique in to other cultures. And in fact, I hope you'll be around, some of you, for a webinar next month. We're going to talk about connecting with disability communities abroad and how a group of 3 exchange alumni with disability found connection in their local communities, especially through their disability identities. So I hope you'll keep an eye out for that press release. So I'm going to direct this next question to Justin. So starting with any, like, AFS's sort of procedure in general terms for requesting reasonable accommodations, and also, does your organization have a budget for providing reasonable accommodations like interpreters or accessible housing? And also your take on when and how students might sort of seek out their own financial aid options.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of students reaching out to us or notifying us about certain accommodations that they may need, there's ample opportunity throughout their exploration and admissions process to do that. So students will, fill out an AFS application, which will give them some opportunities for us to learn more about them, what they hope to achieve on their program, as well as what their health and needs are there. Once a student does that, sort of our role here at AFS USA is to coordinate them with our partner to see how they are able to, meet those sorts of accommodation requests. And again, I think that's part of some of what we've been talking about already is finding out, early on in the process, what are those needs, and then aligning with a program that's going to be able to sort of meet them. So a partner will do this kind of variety of avenues that they could take. I would say, in many of our cases, especially with the host family component, where you're going to be living with the volunteer host family, what the partner might look for there is, can they make connections within that community to identify a family that could already have experience or maybe already has a home that is more accessible for a student. So that would be sort of the general approach that we would take with it, is a lot of coordinating with the partner office abroad. And then in terms of providing certain services, in our history, one thing that's been really great for us is that we do have a large volunteer network. So in many cases, we've actually had connections with volunteers, both here in the US and as well as in our partners abroad, that are able to sort of assist us with some of these services. So for example, providing an interpreter that could attend an orientation and provide those services for a student that needed it. So in general, that would be our approach to it. And then in terms of finances, that's always a big question that students and parents have when they come to us is how can we make this possible? So there's a variety of avenues that we direct students to. So AFS as an organization, we do have some scholarship options that students can explore. Scholarships may be merit-based, they could be needs-based. And then we also have many of our local volunteer teams here in the US. They do a lot of fundraisings to provide scholarship opportunities for students from their area. So that's typically the way in which we would direct students. In addition, students can do some fundraising. So we create a lot of resources and ideas and tips that past students have done to fundraise towards their program. One thing that we do here at AFS is we actually have a fundraising tool that we've created. It's similar to GoFundMe, where our students going abroad can create a blog, and then they can add this this tool to their blog, in which members of their community, family, anyone they share it with, can actually donate directly to their experience. So there's sort of several different avenues that students can take in order to figure out how they can finance their program and make this possible.
Thank you, Justin. And Sarah, how does ISA think about budgeting for reasonable accommodations?
Pretty similar in that we have scholarships aimed at our programs that can be need or merit based or based on the type of program you're going on. Like, for example, if you're doing a service learning based program, there's scholarships for that. The main one I guide students toward is our diversity scholarship, which can be anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000, a pretty hefty chunk of your program going abroad. And I mean, in all honesty, we haven't had students with disability apply for the scholarship in most terms, but last year we did have a student who disclosed that she had spina bifida wanting to go to Spain, and she got a scholarship, the diversity scholarship for her program, which her program, I believe, was around 11,000 for the full semester. So that's about half of it right there. That's a huge amount of money to help her with not just the program cost, but any additional costs she incurred going abroad too. So we also on the accessibility team can guide students towards resources that are out there. We don't have any ourselves just for our own little team, but we've been around long enough to be able to guide students towards, here's a scholarship you can apply for. I mean, $500 here and $500 there is not a $5,000 scholarship, but it adds up quicker than you might think. So we're really there to be that middleman and guide students towards the most applicable awards for them.
That's great. Thank you, Sarah, and thanks for that example too. Brittany, how about World Learning? How does World Learning think about budgeting for reasonable accommodations and scholarships?
Yeah, so on the scholarship piece, unfortunately, I can't speak to that as much because I work in the youth programs, which are for high school students specifically. Those are actually fully funded programs funded by the US State Department. So in addition, the Experiment in International Living, which is also a high school program, does have a number of scholarship opportunities most years. And we work with participants and families to find opportunities that work best for them. As for funding for disabilities, because we have programs that are funded in different ways, we don't really have a full blanket answer to that question. So accommodations do depend, I would say specific, the specifics of the accommodation can sometimes depend upon the funder. We certainly bill it in whenever we are able to, but yeah, so that is a little bit about our funding.
Thanks. And Justin, what are AFS's strategies around accessibility given the varying housing situations that students might stay in? Sometimes students with disabilities will have housing accessibility needs, ramps, grab bars, location within proximity to public transit. So how does AFS work with that?
Sure. What I would say is very similar to sort of how we approach this with the other topics we've discussed, is that we coordinate with our partner to see what the partner is capable and able to deliver on. So our strategy there is, again, once we've aligned a student with the program, is on certain different fronts. So for example, with a host family, what they would strategy they could approach is, again, can they identify a host family that may already be able to accommodate the needs with accessible housing, for example. That's one approach that we would take. Again, it's always up to the host families that the AFS office has been able to sort of recruit for that particular program. Our host families are also volunteer families as well, so they don't receive any sort of stipend or anything like that for hosting a student. So that's one of the realities and one of the things that's going to be part of the process of working with the student and in a partner to make their program possible. Then in terms of programs that may have a different, not have a host family component to it, so it could be like a dorm-based program, or maybe it's a group program that may stay in a hotel or a hostel. From there, again, it's coordinating with our partner ahead of time, right? Dorm programs are more sort of ingrained. It's the same dorm over each year. So what we would do is determine with that dorm, what are the accessibility options that they have, and then ensure that it aligns with the student and if they are able to deliver on it. And then in terms of hotels and hostels, we coordinate with our partners when they can know early on in the process, they may have a student that's going to be traveling with the group that has specific needs. That's something that they can look into when booking accommodations for the duration of the program.
Great. Thank you, Justin. I'm going to direct this next question to Sarah. How should students advocate for themselves if they feel that they're being left out, especially in instances where they might not agree with the program on their abilities, on something they're capable of doing?
That's really hard to do, I'll say, as a student, and something I wasn't good at when I studied abroad. I think it's really important to, when you're picking a program, know your abilities, what you're comfortable doing, and start thinking about your line. I mean, I gave the example that I have some mobility restrictions. When I studied abroad, there was an excursion that was hiking in the mountains. We were near the Alps in Germany, and I wanted to go. I didn't want to be left out. So I didn't disclose that hiking is really difficult for me. I ended up doing it and hurt for a couple of weeks after. And then after that, it wasn't explicit, but it was almost implicit, like, okay, we're going to go hiking, maybe stay here at the resort area while we do this 8-mile hike, which in all honesty is what I wanted to do. But it was kind of that implicit guide of, not necessarily being left out, but being guided toward the safer option. And I think if you wanted to do, say, the hike in my example, that's when you really need to be comfortable having an honest conversation with any authority figure in your program, whether that be, say, for example, in an ISA program, if you don't feel comfortable talking to your on-site director, but you still remember my email, talk to me and I'll have that conversation. It's really hard to have that honest conversation when you feel like you're being left out due to ability. I mean, it's never going to be comfortable, but if you can identify one trusted person at the organization or the school or wherever, we can help you with that conversation. So, I mean, disclosing early, hopefully we can talk and create a bond and, talk about your accommodations. And then if you need me 6 months later, by all means, I am happy to help.
Thank you, Sarah. And next question for you too. How does ISA support individuals who use emotional support or service animals?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about this. I did mention we're seeing this a lot more often lately. So the way we do it is, once you've kind of identified what type of program you want to go on, picking your courses, picking your location, all of those other pieces, that's when we start looking at the specifics for your animal. Right now, we're seeing a distinction internationally between a service animal for a task and an emotional support animal, which is usually imported into a country as a pet, which is a bit different in some countries versus others. And we will help you gather all the information and tasks you need to do. What documentation do you need to get from your vet? How long is the quarantine facility? How much does it cost? And we aren't able to do those for you because you have to go to the vet, you have to get the paperwork, those sorts of things. But we do all of the support in gathering that information. We'll also talk to our on-site staff about, if you choose a homestay, is there a homestay similar to what Justin said that will accept the animal? This is a volunteer base, so are they willing to take, for example, a dog into their home for the remainder of the program? Will the host university allow the animal in the classroom? All the different pieces will kind of work behind the scenes to make sure that this is the correct fit for you and your accommodation needs.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. And that ends the question segment that we have. It is 1 after the hour, 12 p.m. PDT, 3 p.m. EDT. So everybody, you're welcome to log off. We appreciate your patience with our technical difficulties. It's been a pleasure, though, presenting this webinar with our presenters. We could stay for another 8 minutes in case there are any questions. And Monica, do you see any questions in the chat box?
Yeah, this is Monica. I think the only question I have so far is for Brittany. Brittany, you mentioned earlier on about the exchange program you went to that was specifically for students with learning disabilities. Can you share more about who that program was with, or just more information about that program?
So that was a unique opportunity. That was through Landmark College, and which is a school for people with learning disabilities in Southern Vermont. And that was in the early 2000s, to be honest. And I don't know about their current offerings. And it was a program that brought teachers with us and offered classes from Landmark teachers.
Great, thank you for sharing. That's the only question I have. Yep, no more questions here.
There is a raised hand in the audience from Madison.
Oh.
Madison, you can unmute yourself or turn your video on if you have a question.
Okay, this is Madison. Hi, thank you for the workshop today. I had a question. I am also a sign language interpreter working in the K-12 setting. And my first question, and you kind of touched upon this earlier, if a deaf or hard of hearing child was interested in study abroad, would they be encouraged to go to an English speaking country, or could they really go anywhere, regardless of language?
That's a good question.
Sure, I could say from AFS USA how we would approach it. I don't think we would actually necessarily inform the students that they should go to an English-speaking country. I think that we would what we would want to do is, again, tap into our resources to see what they can provide and what signing is going to be like in the country that they go. So again, can a school have the resources to be able to provide that for a student? And so for us, it would really be sort of figuring out what the students' interests are, speaking with our partners and determining if that program would be a good fit and could meet that accommodation need for that student.
Great. And then on a personal note, like I said, I'm an educational interpreter, ASL, and I've also done several study abroads myself. I speak 4 other languages. Are there any opportunities for professionals like us that might want to be an interpreter for a deaf or hard of hearing student doing a study abroad?
I guess from I don't know definitively, but what I could say from like the AFS perspective is that we have I mentioned earlier in this we have a strong volunteer base. So anyone that volunteers with AFS, they can get involved in their local chapter. There's sort of a variety of different roles that a volunteer can serve, to whether it either be with students that are being hosted here in the US or to help prepare students that are getting ready to go abroad on their programs. And so I had actually mentioned earlier when we did send a deaf student abroad, we actually had a couple of volunteers who assisted us throughout the entire preparation process. And they really served not only as a point of like contact resource for the student preparing, but they also provided those interpretive services for orientations, webinars, other things that we did for preparation.
Okay. Well, I will be moving to Costa Rica soon if you need anybody down there.
Awesome. That's great to know. We do have a program there.
Great. Okay, thank you.
One thing that I will add is that for our youth programs, we and one of which is for U.S. students going abroad. We, in addition to accepting youth applicants, high school applicants, we also select a few what we call adult mentors, who are also participants, but are serve the role of a mentor. They join the program, they go on the exchange, and they support youth just as our leaders do. But they're kind of listed in between the leaders and the youth. And that could be a really great application of your skills, or just for any educator who wants an opportunity to connect with Americans abroad. And we also, in addition to that, hire seasonal facilitators for all of our programs. So, and I think we are one of many international education organizations that does that. So that could be a great other idea as well.
That sounds great. I would love more information.
Thanks, Madison, for those questions. So with that, I guess we not having any more questions. I appreciate everybody's participation in this webinar. Much appreciation also to our presenters. And you'll be hearing from us with a follow-up email with including satisfaction survey and also some follow-up resources. So keep an eye out for that. Also, you should also expect to see a recording and a transcript that will be available in the next couple weeks. So keep checking your inbox for that as well. And with that, everybody have a great weekend and a great day. And we'll see you at our next webinar.
Great. Thank you, Justin. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.